We're going to build homes that are anywhere between 20 to 50% faster to build, more than 20, 25% cheaper than existing homes to build, and that cost less to live in because they're better insulated, better for the environment, they're warmer, safer places to be.
Warmer, safer places to be. It's a shame that I don't have every video clip that has ever existed to highlight the absolute, it's not just insanity, it's inanity. I mean, it's inanity, insanity, it's Groundhog Day of a political campaign. They're going to build houses faster, people. You know who else said that? Justin Trudeau. You know when else he said that? 2015, 2017, 2019, 2021, and now it's 2025. And listen to the man who has been behind the scenes. What's his name? Mark J. Carney. We're going to build houses faster. They're going to be warmer. I'm sorry. Have people been complaining that their houses are not warm enough in Canada? I didn't hear that on the checklist of items that are the biggest concerns for Canadians. Safer? Oh, you mean like when that York police officer was telling York residents, York is in Ontario, to leave the fob for your cars at the front door because the armed criminals who are there to steal your stuff don't want you. They just want your car. So leave the fob at the front door. Literally the police officer who somebody, I think later on, I won't even repeat the fake news story. Someone else had repeated a fake news story that would have suggested some very sinister RICO-esque type motives for which this police officer was saying, yeah, make it easier to steal your cars. That was bullcrap. So don't spread bad news. But he said, leave the fob at your front door because these criminals, and they're armed, and their guns are real guns. They're not toy guns. So after 10 years of stricter gun laws that have impacted everybody except the criminals, they want you to feel safer in the houses that they're going to build for you this time around that they haven't done for the last 10 years in a country with increasing crime, but they're going to make them safer. They're going to make them cheaper. They're going to make them eco-friendly. Holy hell. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. I'm taking crazy pills, people. That's Mark J. Carney. Mark J. Carney, who is the object of, it would seem, some potentially inorganic promotion on the WeChat communist Chinese app. But before we even get there,
there's also updated advice for all vehicle owners.
This is real life.
Police speaking at an Etobicoke safety meeting last month. Constable Marco Ricciardi had a new message for vehicle owners who keep their fobs in Faraday pouches.
To prevent the possibility of being attacked in your home, leave your fobs at your front door. Because they're breaking into your home to steal your car. They don't want anything else. A lot of them that they're arresting have guns on them, and they're not toy guns, they're real guns. They're loaded.
That's why Galinsky says they will be installed.
Take it out now. Yeah, they're real guns. They're loaded. Unlike yours, because you don't have any. Because we made it so exceedingly difficult for you to procure a double-barrel duck hunting shotgun. You don't get to have a small-arm revolver for self-defense. What do you think this is, like America? You think you get to defend your body against armed criminals? But don't worry. They don't want to do things to your body, although that's been going up in Canada as well. They don't want to assault you, although that's been going up in Canada as well. So just leave your fobs at the front door. Like I said the first time I heard of that story, leave it there with a little milk and cookies. Make sure the milk is warm because the criminals, they're carrying real guns and real bullets. They don't like cold milk. And give them your stuff. Let them take your stuff, and you do not dare to defend yourself. There was a story. The video went around, I think it was in Ontario, of a dude ramming his car into someone's garage and then going through their house, assaulting their family with a chain. I'm like, you know what the great equalizer would be to a chain? A gun. Oh, but you're not allowed owning a firearm for the purposes of self-defense in Canada. You can use one if you have it for self-defense, and then you'll defend yourself in the courts for the rest of your life. You're not allowed procuring a firearm for the purposes of self-defense. Why do I know this? Because I have my firearm license. I had a shotgun up in Canada. If you even, leave an inkling to the fact that why you're getting a firearm is for the purposes of self-defense and not hunting, they won't let you have a gun. You got to go take a 2-day course, which I took. You got to pass the exam, which I passed. You got to get a background check, which I got. You got to get the authorization of your wife, which I got. And ultimately, I never even got to go duck hunting because we came to the States before that. Leave your stuff at the front door for the criminals, people. Now, Mark J. Carney has been the subject of the news lately. I don't know if any of you heard about this, but there was something of an inorganic promoted campaign on a Chinese website called WeChat. And now, we all got out of 4 years of Beijing Biden. And if Canada doesn't get their, how many minutes into the show are we? If they don't get their stuff together, you're going to end up with 4 more years in addition to the last 10 years. This time, it's going to be Commie Carney, or Comrade Carney, or China Carney, or CCP Carney. I like that one. CCP Carney. In fact, you can't spell CCP without the C for Carney. The way the media reports on it is actually quite stunning because they leave it ambiguous as to whether or not the article that is being promoted on this WeChat app is favorable or not. This is National Post. This is everything that we've been talking about. And you get your bootlicking, sycophant, propaganda, hack, so-called journalists out there trying to fact check other people. I wanted to make sure about this before I took a position because I had seen people saying China is supporting their preferred candidate, Carney, Comrade Carney, CCP Carney. And then I heard some other fact checkers saying, no, how dare you spread this disinformation? Here's the article from the National Post, the way they're reporting it. Chinese government boosted Carney posts on popular social media platforms. So far, there's no qualification of the nature or messaging of the posts. Both posts caught fire at a suspiciously fast pace, garnering an estimated 1 to 3 million views. Now, this was from the other day. I think I talked about this particular article where I said, okay, fine. No, it was the video of the government officials in Canada talking about it. And, you know, there's an element of, if you don't know how social media works, you say like, oh, why is this post getting so much traction and none other? It's got to be inorganic. Look, things catch fire, things don't on the internet. The video of me catching a smallmouth bass with a drone should have caught internet fire. It should have been a 100 million view video. As it is, it's barely scraping to 1 million now, and it's 10 years old. Best moment of my life. Go look it up. Drone bass fishing. It's mine. Sometimes videos, for no reason, go super viral. Dave After the Dentist. There were other people who were high off that laughing gas that didn't go viral. So sometimes it happens, and it's not necessarily inorganic. It's not necessarily bot farming. It's not necessarily paid for. They could have boosted it. I don't know how boosting works on WeChat. So I was a little skeptical. Ottawa. Canada's electoral interference watchdog says Chinese government is behind recent campaigns on China's largest social media network to influence views of Liberal leader Mark Carney. Notice it's neutral. I want to know, these two posts, good or bad? About Mark Carney, positive or negative, I should say, to be more accurate. On March 10, March 25, Yuli Yumian, the most popular news account on Chinese social media platform WeChat, shared posts about Liberal leader Mark Carney that cast him in a generally positive light. My reaction when I see the National Post, they tend to be better by Canadian standards. If they say generally positive light, that sounds like back massage, we lovey Mr. Marky Carney, love. So I say, okay, if they say generally positive, it's damn positive, but we won't get there yet. Both posts by the same account caught fire at a suspiciously fast rate, garnering between 85,000 and 130,000 interactions, 1 to 3 million views. The post got so much attention so quickly on the Chinese platform that they caught the eye of security and intelligence threats to election site. That was the woman that we watched yesterday in the video. Task force, which realized that the publications were part of an information campaign by the People's Republic of China. Quote, this content has been amplified in a coordinated and inauthentic way. This information operation had contrasting positive and negative narratives, first amplifying Mr. Carney's stance with the United States and then targeting his experience and credentials, said PCO Assistant Secretary Lauriane Kempton, who we watched yesterday. The site task force consensus for the state-backed information operation was intended to influence Canadian Chinese communities and look to mold perceptions. And then we get to the posts. March 10 post entitled "The U.S. Encounters a Tough Guy Prime Minister" and describes Carney's position vis-a-vis President Donald Trump's tariff threats. The March 25th article, "Canada's Road to Seeking Survival Election," describes Carney's political road to the Liberal leader, but also notes his career to date has not been smooth, and he's been criticized by conservatives for refusing to disclose his assets. Okay, we can stop here because I don't think we need to get any more into that. So I went and I found the original articles. I don't know if they're in Mandarin or Cantonese. I suspect it's Mandarin. I don't speak Mandarin. So using Encryptus in the backdrop to summarize, translate, and give the essence of these articles, what did we come up with? We'll show you the multi-page report of this. The conclusion of these articles, as the Toronto Star put it, Carney's victory reflects Canadians' dissatisfaction with the status quo, but whether he can turn this crisis dividend into meaningful reform is the true test. Can you imagine anyone on earth suggesting that Carney is the fighting back against the status quo? It's so inconceivable and laughably stupid that the only thing that could be is Chinese propaganda to influence the very, very prominent and numerically dispersed Chinese population in Canada, that Carney is the solution to the status quo being Carney's Liberal Party. He's the disruptor. Holy hell, do you have to be mentally challenged to actually believe that? Or susceptible of Chinese-influenced propaganda. Oh yeah, he's the disruptor to the status quo of 10 years of liberal rule, 5 years of which Carney has been the advisor to Justin Trudeau. If you buy that, you're an idiot. If you vote for the Liberals, you're an idiot. If anyone is going to look at that and say that is anything but delusional support for Mark Carney, they probably work for the SITE, the site. I forget what it was now, something about elections, whatever the site stands for. So now you know it. This is what's going on in Canada. It's election interference, targeting Canada's Chinese population, which is robust. Encryptus, what's the Chinese population in Canada? I mean, it's massively concentrated in two areas that tend to, at least one of which tends to dictate the results of elections, Ontario. And then you got Vancouver, British Columbia. Two provinces which are more liberal than Portland, Oregon. I should be accurate. Sorry, I'm a little unfair to Ontario. Vancouver, British Columbia, specifically Victoria Island, Vancouver Island, makes Portland, Oregon look like Texas. Go for it.
We have 1.71 million people identified as Chinese in Canada, which represents 4.7% of Canada's total population. Anyone's called Canada China.
Well, you're not. You give it a few years, Encryptus. So that is the well, we don't know if it's mixed. It's mixed reviews. Carney is the disruptor to the status quo on a Chinese app targeting Chinese Canadians for the purposes of Chinese propaganda to prop up yet again not just the Liberal Party but specifically Mark J. Carney. 2 weeks after one of his MPs had to resign because he suggested that the general population deliver a conservative MP to the Hong Kong consulate for the $1 million bounty that the Chinese party has placed on that conservative member's head. That's what's going on in Canada, people. Holy sweet merciful crab apples. Good afternoon, everybody. How goes the battle?